If you want to know the truth, just ask a 4-year-old. A few months ago, my grandson gave me his unfiltered opinion about my baking. I had just given him a freshly baked cookie, and he took one bite and he said, "Gigi, this tastes yucky." No filter, no hesitation, just pure honesty. My grandson is a truth teller because he hasn't yet learned that sometimes we hide the truth. Standing there in the kitchen with a tray of rejected cookies, it hit me. I think we were all born truth tellers until somewhere along the line, we were taught to lie. And we were taught to lie just not even unconsciously, that protecting feelings matters more than honesty. And I remember exactly that moment for me. I was 8 years old. I was at a friend's birthday party having a time of my life, jumping on a trampoline, when I landed awkwardly and I hurt my ankle, and it swelled instantly. When my mom came to pick me up, someone suggested that she take me to the hospital, and she waved it off and said, I think it'll be fine. But by Monday morning, it was anything but fine. It was so swollen I couldn't get my shoe on, let alone walk to school. So instead of driving me to school, she drove me to the hospital. And on the way, she said to me softly, yet firmly, "When they ask when it happened, tell them it happened this morning." So I did. And that was the first time I remember lying for someone I loved. The first time I realized that truth isn't always welcome. Now, please hear me say this. My mom was the most amazing mom, and she loved me deeply. She was just doing what I think most of us would have done, is worry about what other people might think. So she asked me to hide the truth. And so I did. And I think that that's how it starts for many of us. We innocently tell lies to protect someone we love. Not because we're bad, but because we've been taught repeatedly and quietly that truth is risky and silence feels safer. But here's what I've learned and experienced is that pattern can expand. And it can go from lying to protect others to lying to protect ourselves. Just look at social media. We share the highlight reel and we hide the heartache. Not to deceive, but to belong. In everyday conversations, we exaggerate the truth to fit in, to sound more successful, more interesting. Just like when people ask me if this is my natural hair color, I say, of course. And then when somebody asks us how we are, we say, I'm fine, when we're anything but. I believe lying is becoming the water we swim in. And friends, I think we're at risk of drowning. Research shows that many of us tell 1 to 2 lies every day, most commonly without even knowing it. And when something happens on pattern like that over and over again, we actually are at risk of not knowing it's a lie any longer and just believing it to be true and normal. So it makes sense, doesn't it, that the more normal it feels to lie for others and to lie to others, lying to ourselves is second nature. And those are the quiet lies. Those are the ones that live up here. We all have them. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. My voice doesn't matter. When we think something often enough, our brain believes it to be true. And then we start taking on the lies as truth. And when we start to believe the lies that we're telling about ourselves to ourselves, we tend to stop speaking the truth. to ourselves, and to others. And that's exactly where I found myself after I experienced a sexual assault at an organization I worked for. The first thing I felt wasn't anger. It was guilt and shame. I second-guessed myself and I thought over and over again, what did I do wrong? Not that it was true at all, but it was because I was believing the lie that my brain was telling me, that it was my fault. So I stayed quiet until one day, one question stopped me cold. And that was, what would I do if this had happened to my daughter? And in that moment, I knew I would tell her it wasn't her fault, that she did nothing wrong, and that she needed to speak up. And that was exactly what I knew I needed to do. So I told the organization I worked for exactly what had happened to me. But instead of protecting me, they protected themselves. They lawyered up, and they protected their own reputation, which made me feel even more alone. And then I was told the solution was to sign an NDA. Now, an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement, which is a legal contract that was originally created to protect intellectual property and client lists and formulas and ideas. But over time, they have become used for something very different. They have become used to silence people who have experienced sexual assault, misconduct, and discrimination. Now, when used like this, you're not just silencing them, you are taking away their voice to say what happened, even though they're the ones who have been harmed. Research is showing that this type of silence is having a devastating effect on their well-being, mentally and emotionally. In fact, research is showing that 95% of civil settlements include an NDA. Let that sink in. 95%. That means that those brave enough to speak the truth when something goes wrong are often the ones legally required to hide it. And what's even more troubling about this is that it's happening way too often. Tens of thousands of Canadians every year are silenced this way. In their workplaces, in their schools, in their sports organizations, and yes, even their churches. We're using NDAs and misusing them to silence people. This is the world many of us have been living in. But here's where I find hope. This is starting to change. Leaders and organizations are starting to see the harm that the misuse of NDAs are having on individuals. Truth is making a comeback. Organizations like Can't Buy My Silence are working all across Canada to enforce the misuse of NDAs. They are partnering with our provinces one by one to ensure that we're only using them for the reason they were created. And in fact, one province has already signed full legislation. Thank you, Prince Edward Island. Can we give them a round of applause? It's by these efforts that women and men are getting their voices back. It's what's helping me reclaim mine. But here's the thing. I'm going to be honest. Would you be surprised? Anything else? It's not going to be easy. It's going to require us to look at the lies that we tell, to ourselves, to others, and to the systems that are silencing truth. So how do we do this? Well, it takes courage. Courage to notice the lies that we're telling to others and for others. But it's also recognizing all of the truths that are being silenced. Because when we can do all of this together, we can create something different. We can create a world where Truth is no longer dangerous. It's expected. Where leaders model it, where individuals feel safe enough to speak it, and organizations protect it. My grandson reminded me of that with one tiny, brutally honest cookie review. He reminded me that truth isn't something we have to learn. It's something we already know. We weren't born to hide the truth. We are born to speak it. Truth is making a comeback. Thank you.